Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is on my favorite rose fragrances. I have about 10 here, plus a couple honorable mentions. We are just gonna get right into it. I always say that and I always sidebar, but we really are this time. The first fragrance is Eau Rose by DIPTYQUE, and this is just a fresh, basically photorealistic rose. This is a really nice spring summer fragrance. It's basically rose, blackcurrant, and citrus. The blackcurrant really comes out. It does remind me a little bit of L'Ombre dans l'eau, if you're familiar with that fragrance from DIPTYQUE. This is a little bit similar, but more rose-centric. It's a really fresh, bright, happy rose, and I love to wear this when it's hot out. This is my go-to rose fragrance for spring and summer. Then we have one of my favorite rose fragrances ever, Nina Ricci Rose EXTASE. I talk about this really often, and this is just a great performing, sweet, jammy rose with a nice powdery sweet vanilla and raspberry. It's really girly, it's really flirty. It's quite light and airy, even though it has all of that sweetness in there. The nose behind this is Francis Kurkdjian, and he does rose incredibly well. Pretty much for me, any fragrance that I see that he's collaborated on, at least collaborated, I know is gonna be a winner. If there's rose in it, for sure. And this one doesn't disappoint. It lasts all day. Like, honestly, it's so long lasting, and it's an eau de toilette, which is really surprising. But yeah, it's a really good, sweet, jammy rose if you're looking for that kind of thing. I don't typically like sweet fragrances, but this is one of the few that I actually really, really enjoy. Next is a Mon Guerlain flanker that often gets overlooked, and this one for me is actually one of my favorite flankers. I like it better than the Eau Florale. This is Mon Guerlain Bloom of Rose. If this cap would only come off. This is exactly what you think it would be. It's Mon Guerlain with added rose, but there's also a really nice juicy pear in here. This one, honestly, I sometimes like more than Mon Guerlain, and this one gets me more compliments than the original Mon Guerlain. I love them all. I am a huge fan of the whole Mon Guerlain lineup, but this one does get me way more compliments than the original. And I find it a bit lighter. I find it a little bit easier to wear, where sometimes I do find that I'll overspray the original and it can be a little suffocating, but this one I don't have that issue with. It's not really rose heavy. Rose is in there. It's still the original Mon Guerlain DNA, but the rose just adds a little something extra, so I really enjoy that one. The next one is from Narciso Rodriguez, and this is Fleur Musk. Anything from Narciso is basically flawless, in my opinion. They do musk perfectly. I'm trying to cover all bases of rose here. So we have some fresh rose, we have some sweet rose, and now we have a musky rose. This is very elegant. This is very feminine, sexy. There's some nice pepper in here as well. There's some nice muskiness, peony. It's, you know what? It's very like Narciso-esque. Think of the typical like standard Narciso musk in either the For Her in the black bottle, or even the type of musk that's in the original Narciso by Narciso Rodriguez in the white cube. It's that with rose. Basically, that's all it is. Rose and pepper. Very feminine, very elegant. Like, this is a really sexy, going out to like a fancy event kind of fragrance. Like, I'll wear this out when I'm dressing up. Rose, in my opinion, without being like a sweet rose, doesn't tend to be sexy. Usually when a rose is sexy, it's on the sweeter side. This is the one exception for me where it's actually a very, very sexy, sensual rose without it being sweet, because of that beautiful muskiness that's in there. And I'm gonna be getting a full bottle of that very soon. Speaking of elegant, we have Givenchy Eau Demoiselle. This, out of the cap, actually smells really bad, but on paper and on skin, it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful citrusy rose. I feel like if you like Coco Mademoiselle, but you don't like patchouli, this would be a good alternative. Like, this is a really work appropriate fragrance. This is a very good, like, all year rounder and very elegant. Like, this one I wouldn't classify as sexy. This one is just very crisp, very elegant, like I see a white blouse kind of situation with this fragrance, and I do actually like to wear it to work. It creates a really nice scent bubble. It has really interesting notes too. I think there's like basil in here as well. There's some interesting greenness. There's ambrette seed, and so it does have a bit of a muskiness going on. There's ylang, which doesn't come out as much for me as the rose and the citrus. Like for me, it's mostly rose and citrus with some muskiness. I think it's really, really pretty, very elegant. Now, a dark rose. Sorcery from OAKCHA. I really like this brand. They tend to do dupes, but this particular fragrance is their own creation, and it's rose and ambergris. They say there's some tropical flowers in here and a few other notes that I can't remember. I don't need to spray it because this is so potent. It's so strong, it will fill up an entire room. Like if you are actually looking for a beast mode killer rose fragrance, this is it. I think in another video I called it a murdery rose, and that's exactly what it is, because it has this sweetness, it kind of lures you in, and then it is just killer. It's salty, very, very intense, and it is sexy, but it's dark. It's very dark. It's like a little bit vampy in my opinion. I do really like this, but I would only reach for this when it's cold outside because it can be suffocating. It's very strong. All of their fragrances are extrait de parfum, so they are really, really potent. Yeah, pretty much ambergris and rose. So it has that sort of like animalic saltiness. I don't think it's a real ambergris. Obviously it's not, but it's a really good representation of ambergris. It has that almost aquatic saltiness that ambergris tends to have, and rose, and that's basically it. Another favorite for the cooler months for me is Bottega Veneta Eau de Velours. This one is basically rose and leather, and I think some plum as well. It's leathery, it's a little bit peppery. It smells a little bit peppery as well. Imagine there's patchouli in here, and once it dries down, it's very alluring, it's very captivating, and you want to keep smelling it. I like leather. I really like leather in fragrances, so for me this works really well. It's a really nice rose and leather combination. It's not too intense, it's very wearable. Like people that are intimidated by a leather note, I don't think should be worried about this one. Obviously try it before you buy it, but this leather is very likable. It's not super intense. It works really well in the whole composition, and the rose in here is really pretty as well. Then of course we have a rose oud, and I only have a small sample. Back in the day, Sephora did give out Jo Malone samples, but they stopped. Either that or I just got a rule breaker kind of girl that gave me a sample of it. But anyway, Velvet Rose and Oud. I'm going with a less challenging rose and oud combo because I know that some rose ouds, even though they're really beautiful to me and other people that are, you know, into challenging fragrances, this is a rose oud that is very easy to understand and very likable. There are only 4 notes in this fragrance, and that is rose, oud, obviously, praline as well, and clove. I am not getting a lot of clove. This fragrance is very much along the lines of Lancôme Oud Bouquet. If you find that one a little bit too challenging, or the Armani Privé Rose d'Arabie, if you find those fragrances too challenging, Velvet Rose and Oud is very easy to understand and a very likable rose oud combo. It's a great intro to oud. I think I should do another video that's like intro to oud fragrances. I'm gonna try not to sidebar about that right now. But yeah, this one was one of those fragrances that I smelled and I was immediately like, oh my god, like why does it smell like this? This smells so good. Like I was talking to the girl at Sephora. Obviously this was ages ago, but I was like I don't understand. Why does this smell so good? Like rose oud. And this was like in the very beginning when I wasn't too familiar with oud. Then I smelled some rose ouds and I was like, oh, no, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, super smooth. This one is super smooth, very likable. I'm pretty sure that if you don't like this fragrance, then you just don't really like oud as a note, more than likely, because this is not a challenging rose oud at all. Very pretty and a very easy to wear fragrance. It's unisex as well. I find it feminine leading, in my opinion. Like, I don't think I would particularly want to smell this on a guy. I know Jo Malone gets a little bit of hate because the fragrances are pretty simplistic, but there are a few that do stand out to me, this being one of them. Then a more recent discovery, it's HEELEY Hippie Rose. I got this little sample when I placed an order with Raffinade Perfumery. I really like them for niche fragrances. They have really well priced niche fragrances and they constantly have sales. So I actually did order a full bottle of Hippie Rose just recently. To me, this is not as dirty as it sounds. It's rose and patchouli, mostly rose and patchouli, pepper, and this smells to me like a lighter, airier, more wearable version of Tom Ford Rose Prick. And also a little bit of Yves Saint Laurent Elle. If you took those two fragrances, this is somewhere in there. It's a light, airy rose. It's rose and patchouli, and that sort of like drier smelling rose that you find in Rose Prick. To me, they smell very, very similar. This one and Rose Prick, they smell very similar. It's just that Rose Prick is more about the prick and this is more about the rose. So I actually really like it. I'm pretty sure they're having a sale now too, so I'm gonna link it down below. And yeah, Hippie Rose is part of that sale as far as I know. So that's from Raffinade Perfumery. The next fragrance is Amouage Lyric Man. This is another fragrance that's on my wish list that I currently just have a small sample of. This one is marketed towards men, but I do find that it's quite unisex. It opens up with lime and what smells to me like mint. I don't know why. I don't think there's a note of mint in here at all, but I'm picking up something like spearmint gum in the opening. I like that minty effect that it has. It really, to me, has a minty effect. Then it dries down and it's more about the rose and the citrus, and then there's smokiness. There's a really nice incense in here, vetiver. I think it's a beautiful fragrance, great for spring, summer as well. I mean, you really could wear this all year round. It's got a nice herbal quality as well. It has angelica, it adds a little bit of bitterness, pine, so maybe that's contributing to that mintiness that I'm getting, but it's really beautiful, like some ginger, really nice kind of herbal and spicy accords mixed in with that rose and smokiness. Just a really, like, surprisingly easy to wear fragrance, even for me. I love wearing this, and the lime is like constantly there. I'm always like picking up the lime in the fragrance with the rose. It's really, really unique. Honestly, one of the most unique rose fragrances I've ever smelled. Didn't expect to like it as much as I do, and didn't think that I would find it wearable for myself, but turns out it is. So there goes another, I guess, $200 when I get a full bottle of that. Unless Amouage wants to sponsor me, I'm totally open to that. Okay, I think that was 10 fragrances. I have a couple super quick honorable mentions. So the first one is À la Rose by Francis Kurkdjian, Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and again, a very photorealistic, beautiful, fresh rose. If I could only get this little sample open. In this fragrance, mostly what I smell is actually a very realistic rose, like a rose in a vase that you smell. It's very, very light, very airy, doesn't have too much fragrance. There's a little bit of muskiness, a little bit of powderiness. Really beautiful, very simplistic, but very beautiful. And I put it as an honorable mention because it is very, very expensive. This house is notoriously super expensive. So for a very simplistic rose fragrance, you know, maybe some people will find it a little bit overpriced. There's a reason why I only have a teeny tiny sample and not a full bottle at the moment. I appreciate the fragrance, I think it's beautiful, but you know, a little hard on the pocket. Then another recent discovery, it's Mon Paris Intensement from Yves Saint Laurent, and this one is like a subdued, more likable version of Armani C. To me, they're very, very similar. This is sweet. It has that candy-esque DNA of Mon Paris, that original DNA, but when it dries down, it also has this chypre quality that comes out. It's very similar in the dry down to Armani C, but better. Sweeter, more playful, more enjoyable, more unique, in my opinion. But again, an honorable mention because it's not super unique, but it is quite likable. And I would say this is a great intro to chypre fragrances. It's quite modern, it's not vintage smelling, and for somebody looking to explore that category of fragrances, I think this would be a great one to check out. So those are all of my favorite rose fragrances. Please comment down below. Let me know what your favorite rose fragrances are, whether designer or niche, men's, women's, unisex, I don't care. I wear it all. So just let me know what I should check out, and maybe you'll see it as part of my next haul. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.